Yeah, I studied both painting and sculpture. I went to school overseas initially in Jakarta, Indonesia. My parents were teachers over there, and then I went to Pratt Institute. And then since grad school, I've only been doing sculpture. But yeah, I mean, my work, a lot of it has to do with moving between 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions, because I also like to draw a lot. That's kind of where it started with me. When I was a kid, I used to make my own comic books, and I used to copy pictures, just would draw all the time. And the drawings kind of became sculptures at some point, where I was making collages out of paper, and then they'd become 3-dimensional. Sculpture was always like the most fun thing for me. Like when I was in college, I did both, and I always thought that sculpture was kind of like the fun side project. And after grad school, like I didn't want to do painting at all anymore. It was kind of like sculpture was so much more exciting for me. I like physically dealing with materials. But I mean, I've used all different kinds of materials. I mean, that's the fun thing about sculpture is depending on the idea, you know, whatever fits the idea, you can use different materials for different ideas. With sculpture too, it can unfold in space. Like from one side, you can't exactly tell what's happening behind it. So as you walk around it, the sculpture can kind of reveal itself. So this piece is called Driver, and it doesn't have to be like a figure at a steering wheel, but that's kind of what it started as. And then I made the steering wheel obviously way too big. The person can't see where they're going exactly. But I kind of like that. I feel like it has an emotional quality to it because, you know, the person's supposed to be driving the car, but they can't see where they're going. Maybe the car is in charge, but the whole thing might be happening in their own head. I mean, it's not, maybe feels like the steering wheel is gigantic, but it's not really, you know. But even a work like this, it starts as a cardboard silhouette. Like the head, I would draw in cardboard and cut it out, and then laminate plywood to give it volume. So it still kind of has one leg in 2 dimensions, and then it kind of expands out into 3 dimensions. This is all plywood and then painted with acrylic paint. And I just glue the plywood together to make it thick and then carve it down and then paint it. I like that the plywood has a topography to it once you sand it, like with the head. You know, when you're sanding this head, the different layers kind of form, you know, their own little landscape. I mean, the main thing was when, like, I wanted the wheel to feel like really large and hard to move, so that's kind of why the hands became really tiny. And there's a lot of like ancient statues actually that have, like there's like Assyrian sculptures that have like small hands, and so it's kind of like has some references, but the main thing was I just wanted them to feel like ineffectual and tiny. So it's more about the emotional state of the person than, well, that's not a real size hand. Like it's more important for it to be true to some kind of inner state that the figure might be in.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Good job, guys.
Thanks.